My name is Ava Kensington. I'm 27 years old. And last Sunday taught me something I should have understood much earlier. Sometimes the most powerful response isn't arguing. Sometimes it's stepping aside and allowing people to reveal themselves. I'd been with Ethan Caldwell for about a year and a half. He was 25. Worked in fashion marketing. And honestly, when we first met, I thought he was fascinating. Ethan could walk into any room and immediately command attention. He always looked perfect. His social media accounts were full of outfit posts that actually attracted thousands of likes. He knew every designer, every trend, every little detail I never paid attention to. At first, I admired that confidence. Eventually, I realized confidence wasn't the right word. Need. Ethan needed attention. Every gathering somehow became about him. At someone else's wedding, he'd wear something louder than the bride's decorations. At casual brunches, he'd dress like a celebrity, attending an award show. Also, at one of my coworkers' baby showers, he arrived wearing an outfit so revealing that several grandmothers nearly dropped their cake plates. Whenever I tried to gently suggest that maybe certain occasions required different choices, he always reacted the same way. God. Ava. You're so controlling. I can wear whatever I want. Technically, he was right. So eventually, I stopped commenting. Then my mother called with wonderful news. My youngest sister, Charlotte Kensington, had graduated from medical school. The first doctor in our family. My mother was ecstatic. We're celebrating at Crescendo downtown, she told me. Formal dress code. Tell Ethan this is Charlotte's special night. I promised I would. That evening, I passed along the message. Mom's organizing a graduation dinner Sunday. I said, fancy restaurant. Formal, dress code. Ethan barely looked away from his phone. Mom. She specifically mentioned the restaurant has rules. He sighed, dramatically. Ava. I heard you. Why are you already trying to tell me what to wear? I'm just repeating what Mom said. I know how to dress myself. Those words stayed with me. Sunday arrived. I put on my navy evening dress and pearl earrings. When Ethan walked out of the bedroom, I froze. His outfit looked like something designed for a music video. Metallic silver jacket. Open shirt exposing most of his chest. Skin-tight pants. Platform boots. Heavy makeup. Chains everywhere. He looked less like someone attending a medical school celebration and more like someone performing at midnight in Las Vegas. Well? He asked proudly. I could have argued. Old me would have. Instead, I smiled. You certainly look memorable. He grinned. I know. Your family won't stop talking about me. Those words bothered me more than I expected. Not Charlotte. Not her achievement. Not 8 years of sacrifice. Him? The drive downtown was quiet. Ethan spent most of it taking selfies. Meanwhile, I kept thinking about my little sister. The girl who used to study until 3 in the morning. The girl who missed holidays because of residency. The girl who cried after losing her first patient. Tonight belonged to her, or at least, it was supposed to. Through the restaurant windows, I saw my family already seated. Mom looked elegant in navy. Dad wore his favorite suit. My older sister Emily sat beside her husband, and Charlotte looked beautiful in burgundy, smiling in a way I hadn't seen in years. She looked happy, proud, peaceful. I opened the restaurant door. After you? Ethan entered like he was stepping onto a runway. The hostess blinked twice. Are you with the Kensington party? Yes, I answered. As we crossed the dining room, I felt the atmosphere change. People noticed. Conversations paused. Forks stopped halfway to mouths. My family saw us approaching. Mom's smile faltered. Dad suddenly found his water fascinating. Emily leaned toward her husband. Charlotte simply stared. Hi, everyone, Ethan announced cheerfully. Sorry we're late. We weren't. Mom recovered first. Ethan. Wonderful to see you. Then she added carefully. That's quite an outfit. He laughed. Exclusive designer. very difficult to get. Before anyone could respond, the waiter appeared. His smile was professional. Welcome to Crescendo. Before we begin, I should mention that our establishment maintains a dress code. Ethan laughed again. My outfit costs more than most people's monthly rent. Yes, sir. However, our policy requires more formal coverage. Silence. Charlotte stared at her menu. My aunt nearly inhaled her wine. Ethan's expression changed. Are you serious? We provide complimentary jackets and wraps. I'm not wearing some used communal clothing. I finally spoke. They're simply following policy. His eyes snapped toward me. You're taking their side. There aren't sides? Ethan. Mom jumped in quickly. Maybe we should focus on Charlotte's celebration. But Ethan wasn't listening anymore. Then Charlotte quietly said, we just want to have dinner. And something in Ethan shifted. Oh. The golden child finally speaks. Every sound in the restaurant disappeared. Charlotte slowly raised her eyes. What did you say? He laughed bitterly. This whole family worships you. I felt sick. My sister had worked for years to reach this moment. And somehow, Ethan had made it about himself. Again, I stood up. We're leaving. He looked shocked. No. We're not. Yes. We are. You can't make me. For the first time all evening, I felt completely calm. You're right. I picked up my purse. I can't. Then I looked directly at him. But I drove. I repeated calmly. You can come with me, or find your own way home. Ethan looked around the table, expecting support. Mom suddenly became very interested in the menu. Dad checked his phone. Emily adjusted her lipstick. Uncle Robert waved for the waiter. Nobody said a word. For the first time since I'd known him, Ethan wasn't getting attention. He was getting silence. His face turned red. Fine. This family is toxic anyway. He grabbed his designer clutch and stormed toward the exit. I turned back toward Charlotte. I'm so sorry. She surprised me by smiling. Ava. Sit down. What? Sit. Please. This isn't your fault. I should take him home. No. Charlotte said gently. Tonight is the first time you've stopped protecting him. Those words hit harder than she realized. Because she was right. For over a year, I'd made excuses for him. I'd smoothed over awkward moments. I'd convinced myself his behavior was confidence. I'd protected him. And somehow, I'd never noticed that nobody was protecting me. So I sat. The evening slowly returned to normal. Dad gave a speech about Charlotte that left half the table crying. Mom had ordered a beautiful cake. The restaurant dimmed the lights. Other diners applauded when they learned Charlotte had become a doctor. And for the first time all night, my little sister looked truly happy again. Meanwhile, my phone vibrated nonstop. I ignored every message. When I finally returned home, around 11, the apartment was dark. Ethan was gone. His key sat on the kitchen counter beside a handwritten note. Staying with Madison. Don't call me. You showed your true colors tonight. I stared at the note for several seconds. Then I folded it and threw it away. I didn't call. Monday morning. The messages began. I can't believe you abandoned me. Your family is classist. That restaurant discriminated against me? You should have defended me. Are you seriously not apologizing? Ava. Hello. Real mature. We need to talk. By evening, he appeared at my apartment. Except, he wasn't alone. His best friend Tyler came with him. Apparently Ethan wanted witnesses the moment he walked inside. He exploded. You humiliated me. I closed the door quietly. No. Ethan. You humiliated yourself. His eyes widened. I knew it. You wanted this. I wanted to celebrate Charlotte. Tyler crossed his arms. You could have warned him better. I did. Not specifically. I told him the restaurant had a formal dress code. That's vague. I almost laughed. No. Tyler. That's adulthood. Ethan was already crying. Not sad tears. Angry tears. You wanted everyone to judge me. No. I took a deep breath. I wanted one night that wasn't about you. The room became silent. For a second, I saw something strange on his face. Not regret, not guilt, confusion. As though the possibility that other people mattered had genuinely never occurred to him. Then he whispered, "So that's it." I nodded. "Yes." "You're throwing away a year and a half." "No." I shook my head. "I think we've both been throwing it away for months." Tyler looked uncomfortable now. Even he seemed to realize this wasn't going the way they'd expected. Ethan's voice became cold. "You're going to regret this." "Okay." He blinked. "That's all you have to say. What do you want from me?" "Ethan, I don't know, fight for us?" I almost smiled. Because suddenly, I remembered all the arguments we'd had. Every disagreement somehow ended with me apologizing. Every crisis ended with me chasing him. Every hurt feeling belonged to him, never me. Not once. "I'm tired," I said quietly. "Of what?" "Of being the only person trying." He stared at me. Then his face hardened. "Fine." He began collecting the things he'd slowly moved into my apartment. Designer jackets, shoes, cologne. Tyler carried boxes to the hallway. As they reached the door, Tyler turned around. "Ethan deserves better." I surprised myself by answering honestly, "Maybe he does." They left, and the strangest thing happened. I felt relief. Not sadness. Not devastation. Relief. That night, I slept peacefully for the first time in months. Over the next 2 weeks, life slowly became normal again. I joined a recreational volleyball league, had dinner with friends I'd neglected, started reading books again, even accepted a casual coffee invitation from a coworker. Nothing serious. Just proof that life continued. Of course, Ethan had his own version of events. Through mutual friends, I learned he was telling everyone I was controlling, manipulative, emotionally abusive. Apparently, I'd set him up at the restaurant. People who barely knew us believed him. People who truly knew me didn't. Charlotte texted me the day after the breakup. "Thank you for protecting my graduation. And Mom wants to know if you'll bring someone to Thanksgiving, preferably someone who understands the phrase, dress appropriately." I laughed for 5 straight minutes. Mom called later. "I'm proud of you, sweetheart. I should have ended it sooner." "Maybe." She paused. "But sometimes we need enough pain before we're willing to leave. Mothers always know, don't they?" A month passed. Life was peaceful. Until Thursday morning. I was at work when my credit card company called. "Ms. Kensington, we're verifying several unusual purchases." My stomach tightened. "What purchases?" The representative read the amount, $4,000. Designer clothing. Several separate transactions. I immediately froze. Because there was only one person I knew capable of spending that much money on clothes without blinking. The representative continued. "We also have the shipping address." I grabbed a pen. "Please tell me." She read the address. And my blood ran cold. The package wasn't being sent to Ethan. It was being delivered to Tyler's apartment. Suddenly, Charlotte's graduation dinner felt like the beginning of something much bigger. And deep down, I had the terrifying feeling that Ethan wasn't finished with me. Not even close. I knew immediately who had access to my credit card information. Months earlier, I'd allowed Ethan to use it during emergencies. Food deliveries. Gas. Small things couples do when they trust each other. Apparently, trust had an expiration date. I contacted the bank immediately. The charges were frozen. The card was canceled. And after speaking with customer protection, I filed a police report. The detective handling the case barely needed 10 minutes. "The shipping address belongs to someone else," he said. "You have proof the relationship ended weeks before the purchases. This is pretty straightforward." I should have felt relieved. Instead, I felt sad, because despite everything, a part of me still remembered the man I'd fallen in love with. Or at least, the man I thought existed. 2 days later, Ethan reminded me why I left. Not through my personal email. Not through a blocked account. Through my work email. Subject line: Relationship compensation proposal. I opened it, expecting an apology. Instead, I nearly choked on my coffee. Ava. After careful reflection, I've concluded that you owe me compensation for the time, energy, and emotional labor I invested during our relationship. I sacrificed opportunities for us. I improved your social image. I elevated your lifestyle. After calculating the value of my contributions, you owe me $50,000. Payment options attached. At first, I thought it was a joke. Then I opened the attachment. It wasn't. There was an actual invoice. Relationship management. $15. Ling ling ling. Emotional support services. $10. Ling ling ling. Social enhancement. $8. Ling ling ling. Interior aesthetic improvements. $5. Ling ling ling. Event coordination. $7. Ling ling ling. Opportunity cost. $5. Ling ling ling. Total du 50. Ling ling ling. I laughed so hard I started crying. Then I noticed something horrifying. He had copied my boss, Human Resources, and somehow, my mother's work email. I immediately called my friend Samantha, who happened to be an attorney. She listened quietly, then disappeared from the phone for nearly 30 seconds. I thought the call had dropped. No, she gasped between laughter. I'm still here. I'm trying to breathe. She laughed for another full minute. Ava. This may be the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. My boss called me into his office shortly afterward. Ava. What exactly is this? I explained everything. He rubbed his forehead. Your ex-boyfriend is creative. That's one word. Insane is another. HR documented everything, because Ethan had involved the company. Then, legal became involved after he sent another email, accusing the business of enabling emotional abuse by employing a narcissist. Apparently I was the narcissist now. My mother's response became legendary. Instead of calling me, she hit reply all. Her message read, Dear Ethan, thank you for your invoice. I've prepared one of my own. Ruining Charlotte's graduation dinner, $5. Ling ling ling. Family therapy. After witnessing your behavior, $3. Ling ling ling. Teaching my daughter to recognize red flags priceless. Please remit payment immediately. Sincerely, Margaret Kensington. I laughed so hard I framed the email. Unfortunately, Ethan wasn't finished. Thursday afternoon. My 70-year-old neighbor, Mrs. Alvarez, called me. Ava. Honey. There's a handsome man outside, knocking on everyone's doors. I nearly dropped my phone. What is he saying? He says he's your fiancé. My heart stopped. We were never engaged. He also claims you stole his grandmother's ring. I closed my eyes. Ethan never even spoke to his grandmother. Mrs. Alvarez continued. Then her voice became cheerful. Don't worry. I already called the police. I adored that woman. By the time I arrived home, officers had already escorted Ethan outside. He claimed he lived in the building. Unfortunately for him, he couldn't produce a key. His ID had another address, and when they asked which apartment belonged to him, he gave the wrong number. Building management was furious. A formal trespassing order was issued immediately. His photograph was distributed to security staff. I thought maybe embarrassment would finally stop him. I was wrong. The following morning, I walked into the garage and nearly burst into tears. My car had been keyed. Deep scratches across both doors. But unlike Ethan, I believed in security cameras. Management reviewed the footage, crystal clear. 3 o'clock in the morning, there he was, wearing another dramatic metallic outfit, using the garage clicker I'd forgotten to retrieve after the breakup, dragging his keys across my car. The detective handling the fraud case stared at the footage. Then he looked at me seriously. Ms. Kensington, I'm going to be blunt. I nodded. This is escalating. He folded his hands. You need a restraining order immediately. Hearing those words made everything suddenly feel real. This wasn't heartbreak anymore. This wasn't relationship drama. This was fear. That afternoon, Samantha helped me file emergency paperwork. The judge granted temporary protection, almost immediately. Court was scheduled for a permanent order. I hoped Ethan would finally understand. Instead, fate delivered one more surprise. The morning of my hearing, I entered the courthouse. And there he was, standing 30 feet away, apparently fighting several traffic tickets. He spotted me and immediately began screaming, "She's stalking me," inside a courthouse, surrounded by officers. I actually stood frozen in disbelief. One deputy slowly turned toward him. "Sit." But Ethan continued, "She's obsessed with me." Several people were staring now. Even Samantha looked speechless. Then, an exhausted-looking man rushed toward Ethan. His attorney. I recognized the expression instantly. It was the face of a man questioning every life choice that brought him here. He apologized to the officers and practically dragged Ethan away. A few minutes later, Samantha and I crossed paths with the attorney again. He sighed heavily. "Long morning?" Samantha asked politely. He closed his eyes. "You have no idea." Then he quietly asked, "Would your client consider dropping the fraud complaint if mine accepts the restraining order?" Samantha smiled. "Not a chance." The attorney nodded. "Honestly?" He looked relieved, almost like he expected that answer. As he walked away, he muttered something under his breath. I only caught 3 words. Complete nightmare client. For the first time in weeks, I realized something strange. I wasn't afraid of Ethan anymore. I was exhausted by him. And tomorrow, a judge would finally hear everything. The permanent restraining order hearing took place the following morning. I barely slept the night before. Not because I was scared anymore. I was tired. Tired of documenting everything. Tired of changing passwords. Tired of looking over my shoulder. Tired of wondering what ridiculous thing Ethan would do next. Samantha met me outside the courtroom with coffee and her usual calm expression. "You ready?" she asked. "As ready as anyone can be, for whatever today turns into." She smiled. "Good answer." Then Ethan arrived, and honestly, if someone had told me beforehand, I wouldn't have believed it. He walked into court wearing a metallic gold suit. Not gold-colored, metallic, shiny, like an award show host who got lost and wandered into family court. Even Samantha blinked twice. "I can't make this stuff up." "Can I?" I whispered. "No," she replied. "And thank God. Because nobody would believe me." Ethan sat beside his attorney. The poor man looked 10 years older than when I'd seen him the previous day. When the hearing began, the judge reviewed the evidence one item at a time. The fraudulent credit card charges, the emails, the fake invoice, the harassment at my workplace, the trespassing incident, the false statements to neighbors, the damage to my vehicle, the security footage. By the time everything had been presented, I almost felt embarrassed for him. Not angry, not vindicated, embarrassed. Then the judge turned toward Ethan. "Mr. Caldwell, do you have anything you'd like to say?" And somehow, he made it worse. "Your Honor, she's emotionally abusive." The judge adjusted his glasses. "In what way?" Ethan sat straighter. "She manipulated me." "How?" "She intentionally failed to prepare me for social expectations." The courtroom became silent. The judge frowned. "I'm sorry. She set me up at that restaurant." "The graduation dinner." "Yes." "What exactly did she do?" "She didn't properly explain how people expected me to dress." Even the court reporter paused. The judge looked genuinely confused. "So your argument is that Ms. Kensington abused you by not choosing your clothing." He knew I needed guidance. I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was absurd. The judge slowly leaned back. "Mr. Caldwell, are you seriously suggesting that another adult is responsible for your wardrobe decisions?" Ethan nodded. "Yes." The judge closed the file. "That is not abuse." Then he looked directly at him. "That is poor judgment." I heard Samantha quietly exhale beside me. The judge continued. "The evidence presented demonstrates a clear pattern of harassment." He signed the order. "The restraining order is granted." My shoulders dropped instantly. Months of stress suddenly left my body. The judge wasn't finished. You are prohibited from approaching Miss Parney. Kensington. Her residence, workplace, and immediate family members. Any violation will result in immediate arrest. Ethan opened his mouth. His attorney immediately whispered something urgently into his ear. For once, Ethan remained silent. As we exited the courtroom, Samantha smiled. The metallic suit really helped. I laughed. Apparently, shiny fabric isn't a legal defense. Behind us, Ethan's attorney caught up. He looked exhausted. Ms. Kensington. I turned. He gave me a small nod. For what it's worth? I'm sorry. You don't owe me an apology. No. He sighed. But somebody should say it. Then he quietly added, he had opportunities to stop this. I nodded. So did I. Because that was the truth. The signs had existed from the beginning. I just hadn't wanted to see them. Over the following weeks, everything collapsed for Ethan. His company discovered he had used work resources to send threatening emails. He was terminated. The fraud charges moved forward. The vandalism charges were added. The trespassing violations remained. Eventually, he accepted a plea agreement. Probation, restitution, mandatory anger management classes. Apparently the judge wanted accountability more than punishment. A month later, Charlotte texted me. Heard about the plea deal. Mom wants to know if the restraining order covers Thanksgiving. I laughed. Then another message arrived. Her exact words? No metallic surprises this year. I showed the text to Mom during Sunday lunch. She looked horrified. Don't even joke about that. Dad nearly spit out his coffee. Even Emily started laughing. For the first time in months, our family conversations felt normal again. No tension, no apologies, no drama, just family. A few weeks later, I moved into a new apartment. Better security, new locks, new routines. Mrs. Alvarez, my favorite neighbor from the old building, actually brought me 3 handwritten recommendations for nice young men who dress appropriately. I hugged her and promised to consider them. Life slowly became peaceful again. Looking back now, I can finally admit something. The warning signs were always there. Ethan's constant need for attention, his inability to recognize boundaries, the way every event somehow became about him. I mistook it for confidence. But confidence doesn't demand an audience. Confidence doesn't punish people for saying no. Confidence doesn't destroy everything simply because it isn't the center of attention. And maybe that's the biggest lesson I learned. When someone calls you controlling because you communicate basic expectations, listen carefully, because sometimes they're telling you exactly who they are. You don't need to argue. You don't need to convince them. You don't need to save them. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is step aside. Let them choose. Let them speak. Let them reveal themselves. And then quietly walk away. Last week, Samantha called me with one final update. Ethan had completed the paperwork for his anger management classes. I asked if there was anything interesting. She burst out laughing. Actually, yes. What? The program has a dress code. I blinked. You're kidding. Nope. Business casual required. I laughed so hard, I had tears in my eyes. Maybe the universe really does have a sense of humor after all.